Patrick Klein is founder and director of Vision Beyond Borders, and he's the author of the new book, By Faith Alone, Confessions of a Bible Smuggler. Patrick, always good talking to you. Thanks for joining us. First, let's discuss something that many Americans are watching right now, and that's relations with Cuba. And I know you've been there many times. Travel restrictions are now being lifted. There's a new opening in our relations between the two countries, and you've taken Bibles there into Cuba. How might the new opening affect Cuban Christians?
Hi, Gary. We're concerned because we think that it still will stay communist. We think that we're still going to have to carry Bibles in covertly. When I was just stopped recently, they held me for 4 hours. I did eventually get through with 15 pastor study Bibles, but it was 4 hours before they let me through.
So what have Christians been up against there? You've told us in the past that they've suffered terrible persecution.
Well, Gary, they have to have house churches because if they cannot build any new church buildings, if they put up a cross, they close it down immediately. Even with the house churches, if somebody in their neighborhood complains the music is too loud, the preaching's too loud, they shut the churches down and the house churches down. So it seems like it's just going to continue the persecution, even though the country's opening up diplomatically with the U.S.
Well, I was going to ask you that because I think many Americans have the mistaken idea that, okay, things are opening up, we can travel there, and I'm sure the Cubans are very friendly, but there's this situation that they're not seeing behind the scenes of Christians being persecuted. What can you tell us about your personal experience there?
Well, first of all, the church is very vibrant and very alive. Every church that we visit, about 12 churches, every one of them is planting another church. They do have a missionary outreach. The church is growing very, very fast. But, they're cautious. They're wondering, they're watching to see what happens. But they're just continuing to work as though nothing's changed. And they keep going with preaching the gospel. But we're just seeing a tremendous need for Bibles.
Well, as things open up, the persecuted church may not grow like it is now. It won't be persecuted like it has been. How will that impact the spiritual life in Cuba if we have new freedoms and more materialism and so forth?
Well, I think right now, because of the communism and so much oppression and poverty, they really have opened up the gospel. And we're concerned that if it opens up more, that it might become, like you said, distracted by materialism and that. But I want to share a story. There was a pastor that traveled a long distance across Cuba. The roads are not good and transportation is not very good. But he came to the capital and went to a church meeting and asked, he said, I have a congregation with 60 people, and I'm the only one in the congregation that has a Bible. And they said, we're really sorry, we don't have any Bibles. But our contact was able to meet with him. They were able to give him 60 Bibles. And what he did was he sat down on the couch and he wept for 30 minutes. He was grateful to get Bibles to take back to his congregation.
And we know that the communist government there, the Castro brothers, are not printing Bibles, are they?
No, they're not.
So they're still
actually opposed.
Well, let's talk about some of the other countries where you have smuggled Bibles. You detail a lot of it in your book. Any close calls, Patrick, in some countries?
In many countries, actually, close calls. We've actually been stopped many times carrying them into China and Vietnam, and even some close calls into Laos. But, the hunger for the Word of God is just amazing around the world. People are seeing their religions don't work, and they're saying, bring us the gospel. We want to hear the truth of Jesus Christ. And so there's a great hunger for the Word of God around the world. And
I know there were some countries where you've sweat a bit going through customs. Tell me about one or two of those.
Well, one of them was Iran, and I was really nervous. I had 80 Bibles in my bag going into Tehran, and I was really praying for a miracle, and God really worked it out. The man stopped us in the customs, and he said, put your bags on the X-ray machine. And my heart was really pounding. I'm thinking, what are they going to do if they catch me with Bibles? And so I was putting them on the X-ray machine. He said, are you guys Americans? They're tourists? And we said, yes. And he said, from where? We said, from America. He said, you're from America? He said, I love America. Take your suitcases off the X machine. You can go right through. You're Americans.
That is amazing, isn't it? And how God blinds the eyes of others. I know that's happened to you as well. Tell me about one of those.
Well, we had a team that was going through into China, and the guy was stopped going through the X-ray machine, and the lady pulled him aside, and she said, open the bag. And she opened the bag, and they saw the Bibles there. And she said, quick, close it up. Get it out of here quick. I'm also a believer. And so we got right through the Bibles, and we've just had story after story how God blinds their eyes or God softens their hearts, and it's just been amazing. But to be able to get a Bible to a believer in one of these closed countries is just tremendous joy.
And even customs agents that have asked for one as they've noticed them in your suitcases.
Right. We had even a guy in Burma, and he saw the Bibles, and we said, "Can we give you a Bible?" He said, "I would love to have one, but they're watching me right now." He said, "My grandfather was a Christian. He loved Jesus, and he loved his Bible. I wish I could have a Bible. I really want one."
That's amazing. And I know that through your travels, you probably have seen and experienced some horrible things. What disturbed you the most, Patrick, over the years? What have you seen or experienced that has caused you the most concern?
I think, seeing the human trafficking has been a really hard thing for me to see in these closed countries, or in countries around the world, and these red light districts. When you see these brothels and seeing girls that are being used, 8 to 12 times a day. And it's just been heartbreaking to see that, and just asking God, please intervene in this situation. You're the one who can change this.
And I know your ministry is involved in helping some of these girls. Tell us what you're doing.
We actually set up a safe house in the country of Nepal, and we've been working to rescue girls out. Last year, we saw over 30 girls rescued out. We just recently, last week, rescued out a 19-year-old. 3 weeks before that, it was a 15-year-old, and 2 weeks before that, a 14-year-old.
And what are they doing now? How are you helping them?
It's amazing. We don't require them to be Christians to come into the safe house. They can be Muslim, Buddhist, Hindu, doesn't matter. And we bring them in. And what happens is they see the Christians interacting. And so every morning they have Bible study and prayer meeting for 2 hours. And so we had been in the temple, saw these girls lined up to worship this golden bull. And then I took these people to the safe house. And here's 15 ladies having a Bible study together. And they're laughing. And these girls, when they come to know Jesus, they find forgiveness for their own sins, but then they can forgive those that have wronged them. And then in the afternoons, we're teaching them how to cut and style hair. And then also they're learning sewing and tailoring skills. They make jewelry, and then also are learning how to drive rickshaws. So we're teaching them skills so they won't be tempted to go back to the life of trafficking.
And what advice would you have, Patrick, for would-be Bible smugglers and missionaries?
A lot of it, I think, is going with a servant heart. Going to serve people around the world and saying, what can we do to help you? Going in humility and saying, I may be from America, I'm a Christian, but I don't know everything. And I've learned that as if we go with a servant heart and we just say, we're here to help you. What can we do for you? I've seen God just open so many doors. It's been amazing.
And it really takes faith, does it not?
Yes, a lot of faith. And it's just, totally trusting God. And even when I got through the customs into Iran, and saw God just, soften this man's heart in the customs, I said, God, you really do rule and reign over the nations. And I think that I'm learning more and more. My faith is growing stronger and stronger as I see God's faithfulness to open doors to get Bibles around the world.
Well, I've seen it firsthand, accompanying you on a couple of trips. I've appreciated your mission, your ministry. And the book is Faith Alone, Confessions of a Bible Smuggler. Patrick Klein of Vision Beyond Borders, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you, Gary. God bless you.